They say the house still breathes at night. But if you stand at the edge of the old iron gate and listen closely, you'll hear more than the dry wind rattling through broken shutters. You'll hear the whispers that never left its walls, echoes of a question that has devoured lives and sleep for over 2 decades. Who killed Clara Whitmore? It began in the winter of 2004, when the nights seemed colder than usual. Even for a small town nestled between forests, no one bothered to map. Pinegrove was the sort of place where everyone knew everyone, but no one really knew anyone. A town stitched together by polite nods and secrets that slept under blankets of snow. Until Clara's murder tore a seam in that quiet fabric so wide, the town never managed to mend it. Clara was 23 when she died, young enough to still wear hope on her face, old enough to hide her fears behind practiced smiles. She lived alone in that creaking house on the hill, a place she inherited from an aunt who died just as mysteriously, though no one dared to compare the two. Back then, the house looked normal enough in daylight, just another relic from Pinegrove's forgotten past, its wooden steps tired, its windows blinking into the dark woods beyond. But at night, it loomed like a question mark, staring down at the town that wished it would vanish. The night Clara died, the snow fell heavier than it had in years. Her neighbors remember the power flickering out around 9. Some heard shouting, a single voice rising and then cut short, like a match snuffed out in the wind. No one went to check. Pinegrove minds its own business, or at least, that is what they told themselves when the news spread by morning that Clara's body had been found by a postman who came knocking and got silence for his trouble. The details were grotesque enough to be unforgettable. Her body was in the hallway, just beyond the front door. No sign of forced entry. No defensive wounds. Her eyes open, mouth parted slightly, as if caught mid-word. The coroner said she'd been stabbed once, just once, straight through the heart. A precise wound that suggested neither panic nor rage, more like purpose. But if the wound was clean, everything else was chaos. The living room was torn apart, papers scattered, drawers dumped, picture frames cracked underfoot. Yet nothing seemed to be missing, not jewelry, not money, not even the loose change that sat in an open dish by the door. It was a scene that felt staged, or worse, like someone wanted it to look like chaos to hide something more deliberate. When the police came, the questions multiplied like flies around the body. There were no fingerprints, not on the doorknob, not on the knife still lodged in her chest. No footprints in the snow but hers and the postman's. No neighbors who admitted to seeing anyone come or go, though. One old man insisted he saw a flicker of movement by the trees at the edge of her yard. A shape too dark for the snow, too fast for the eye. It should have ended there, another unsolved file for the shelf, a tragedy Pinegrove could bury under whispers and snow. But it didn't, because of the letter. 2 days after Clara's funeral, her mother received a letter in an envelope with no return address, no stamp. Just her name written in blocky, childish handwriting. Inside was a single sentence. She saw what she shouldn't have. That sentence cracked open something in Pinegrove that no one could quite close again. Rumors sprouted like weeds. Some said Clara had been keeping a journal filled with secrets about powerful men in town. Others swore she'd stumbled onto something darker. Drug routes carved through the backwoods, people smuggled in truck beds under the cover of snowstorms. A few said she was cursed, that madness ran through her family like a vein of poison, but no journal was ever found, and no one was ever arrested. Over time, the official investigation withered in a drawer, yellowed with age. Detectives transferred or retired. Witnesses died or moved away. Pinegrove did what it always did. It waited for memory to frost over the questions, but not everyone forgot. I didn't. My name is Thomas Greer, and when Clara died, I was 19, an aspiring reporter who thought he knew everything about darkness. I remember her as more than a victim. I remember her as the girl who used to sit 3 rows behind me in history class, who always borrowed pens she never returned, who once told me, in the hushed hallways of our high school, that secrets are like water. You can try to dam them up, but they always find a way to seep through. I didn't believe her then. Now it's the only thing I trust. I spent years trying to outrun Pinegrove, city jobs, failed relationships, nights numbed with cheap whiskey and cheaper excuses. But the house on the hill never let me go. Every winter, when the snow fell thick and the wind rattled old windows, I'd hear her voice in my head, secrets seep through. I'd see her face, pale and frozen, eyes open to something the rest of us refused to see. A month ago, I came back. I told myself it was just for research, an anniversary piece for the local paper that still somehow carries my byline, but I knew it was more than that. I wanted to stand in that hallway. I wanted to hear what the walls would say now, 2 decades older and twice as cool. I broke into the house on a Tuesday night. The lock on the back door was laughably easy. Inside, it smelled of rot and old dreams, mold curling at the corners of wallpaper, floorboards sighing under my boots like they were tired of holding the weight of so many unanswered questions. I stood in the hallway where they found her, closed my eyes, tried to imagine the scene not as crime scene photos, but as something real, the hush of snow outside, the flicker of candlelight, the moment the blade found its mark. I wondered if she knew the killer, if she let them in with a smile, if she regretted opening that door at all. Upstairs, her bedroom was mostly empty now, stripped bare by family, by time, by thieves who came looking for ghosts to sell. But in the back of her closet, under a loose plank, I found it. A tin box, rested at the hinges, small enough to slip in a coat pocket. Inside were scraps of paper, edges brittle, ink faded. They weren't a journal, not exactly. More like thoughts jotted down in haste. A list of names I half recognized, councilman, a sheriff, a preacher, and a phrase repeated twice in a slanted hand that looked frantic, even in death. Not safe, they watch. What was she about to say? What did she see that night before someone made sure she'd never tell? My mind raced with possibilities that felt too big for Pinegrove, yet too close to deny. I wanted to run, but more than that, I wanted to know. The next weeks blurred into a haze of late nights and cold coffee. I tracked down names on those scraps. Some were dead, heart attacks, and accidents that, when I dug deeper, felt a shade too convenient. Others refused to talk, eyes darting to corners of diners, voices dropping to whispers that died the second my recorder clicked on. One night, I sat outside the old sheriff's house, the last name on her list, the one circled twice in a hand grown shaky. He came out to his porch around midnight, coughing into the cold air. I could have confronted him, demanded answers, but I just watched him sit there, wrapped in a blanket, eyes lost somewhere I couldn't follow. Maybe the answers were locked behind those eyes. Maybe he'd carried them so long they'd carved holes in him. I'm not sure when I realized the truth, or if it even is the truth, that Clara's murder was never meant to be solved, that the chaos was the point, the staged mess, the missing clues, the whisper in her mother's letter. The story isn't the knife in her chest. It's the silence that followed. Maybe she saw something she shouldn't have, or maybe she knew too much about people no one wanted to expose. Or maybe, like some still say in hushed, fearful tones, she opened a door that should have stayed closed, not to a man or a secret, but to the thing all secrets become when left to rot, a darkness that swallows anyone foolish enough to dig too deep. Tonight, I'm sitting in my car outside that house again, engine off, cold creeping in through a crack in the window. I'm staring at the front door like it might swing open and show me the truth at last, Clara at the threshold, asking me if I'm ready to listen now. But the house stays silent, breathing slow, watching me watch it. Some nights I think I see a flicker at the window, a shadow moving past, a suggestion of a girl who never really left. Some nights I think about knocking, stepping inside, letting the walls close around me like they closed around her. Maybe then I'd understand. Maybe then the whispers would stop, but deep down I know better. Some questions aren't meant to be answered. Some stories don't want to end, they want to linger, feeding on our sleepless curiosity. Pinegrove still buries its secrets in snow and polite smiles. And the house still breathes at night, telling anyone who dares to listen that the creepiest murder of the century was never really unsolved. It was unfinished and always will be.